people constantly live on Spaces.
Oh no!
But at the same time, it's like
I forgot to read.
That's really. Oh god.
Why is it backwards?
At the same. Was it?
I don't know. Something's backwards.
Oh yeah.
Let me just reset the transformation and see what happens. Oh, that actually might just be perfectly the right size anyway. No, I can make it a little bit bigger. Okay. Oh, it was the music. That's usually there, so people can see what the music is playing, and it's just like, I told you about it beforehand. I had to redo like all of the scenes.
Timothy says it's the devil's work.
Yeah, it is.
So yeah, if we could get on a Space, I think we'd get people listening on Twitter on X because it would always be on the screen while we're live for all of our followers. And that's kind of a huge deal.
Oh yeah. If I had a desktop that was dedicated to this, built for streaming, I would totally do it because I would have Potato on there anyway instead of Banana. That's referring to Voicemeeter for people who don't know the names. And I would have more than enough processing power and specifically cooling. That's the biggest problem because laptops tend to run hot to be able to handle all of that. But in my current position, I'm throttling what I can do with what we're running as it is. But if you could figure out a way to do that from your end, that'd be cool.
Well, but yeah, I mean, the only thing we could think of to do would be to use like Nox Player or something, or get you on speaker. Yeah, get you on speaker or something.
I'd have to just put this. Well, because I already have my charger like right here anyway. Because sometimes I use this for the chat when I'm streaming.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of. And like, I guess with audio, you should be fine. I mean, as far as like, how's your phone connection there?
Well, it's on Wi-Fi, and I'm in the very, very back. I went from one extreme side of the house to the other extreme, so my connection really hasn't changed, like improved at all from being in the garage. I do have that extender on the side, and that's why my laptop does okay back here. Which is necessary because my wireless card was dying anyway. But still, regardless, my phone just has a better wireless card than even this external extender that I put. Dude, I would, back when I lived in the house, right, I would be walking, right, and I would come back to the house. I would be, he didn't live on the end. He lived one house from the side street, right? I'd be coming down the road, catty-cornered to it, and by the time I was at the backyard of the house on the side street, across the street on the corner, so I had to be 100 or so feet away from the house, my phone would already start dinging notifications because it picked up the Wi-Fi from the house. So like the phone probably will have a better signal back here than my computer does.
Yeah. It's funny when I moved back to Arizona, I didn't even think about this, and I think I had even changed phones.
Yeah.
But like as soon as I came within range of Peach's house, I was like, "What is this? What is this Wi-Fi I'm suddenly on?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's her Wi-Fi."
Yeah.
And I was really far away. I was like, I don't know, not 100 yards, but close to like 50 yards away. I don't know. It was surprising to me.
It's crazy, right? And I guess it's because phones are built specifically for wirelessness, but you would think a laptop is too.
Yeah.
This phone, this Galaxy 8, is like at least 1 to 2 years older than this laptop that was already like a year old model when I got it. And its wireless card is way better. And you're like, why do I have a better wireless card in a phone that, can't get service externally? It doesn't necessarily need the wireless card than my laptop that 100% needs a better wireless card.
Yeah. My wireless card in my desktop really sucks.
Yeah.
Compared to my laptop. So I guess the more mobile the device, the more the better the wireless they want to put in.
You would think it should be the other way around, right? Because the more mobile device, the closer you can just like move yourself to the signal.
Right. Sort of.
Right. I mean, a desktop.
I guess they figure,
because you could put an Ethernet cable right into the desktop.
Yeah. So they're like, we're gonna put a cheap ass wireless card. But
like,
yeah,
if you're at a cafe, right, and you have a laptop, it's like you have to sit at a table with your laptop or a bench or something, so you might be farther. If
Yeah,
you have a
that's
phone, you can just get up and stand right next to wherever the signal's coming from.
I guess so. But yeah, now that I think about it, would it be? I mean, that doesn't seem like a bad solution. Like, what if I just started up a space right now on the phone?
Invited
I don't
you
even,
to it
you don't
and
have to
just
like
accepted it.
invite.
Whatever, yeah.
Well, you don't even have to be invited. You just go on Twitter, you'll see it.
Yeah.
You go in the room. I'll give you, I'll give you co-host rights, and then I guess I would turn down the volume on here, but everyone else should be able to hear me, and I'll hear you through my headphones.
Yeah,
Shouldn't that work?
I don't know.
Can we try it now?
I mean, if you
next
want.
time.
Because the thing is, I will hear nothing that's going on in there, right? Because we're just going to be still talking to each other here, so there's no point in me.
Yeah, but that's fine.
Yeah.
It would just be you and me anyway.
If you want.
And if anyone else, came on the show, I would say, oh, by the way, get on Twitter.
I think
and join the space.
The real thing is, I need to be streaming video games on here more often because I've noticed more growth to the channels playing Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail on this channel than actually doing the show. And I've also saw the views go up on the shows though, so those people are going back and checking the VODs. We just need to actually do things that grow the channel, so that's something that needs to happen.
Yeah. I think I would. I mean, especially if we're like advertising it, saying it throughout the stream. I think we should plan to do that next time. We can do an experiment. We can try it out. Well, I mean, I don't think we even need to experiment, but I think if you want to, I think we should do it on Tuesday.
Okay. Yeah.
I think we should try it. I mean, I could do it now. But
I mean, you could. I'm not against it. It's just...
I wanted to check with you first, but I was just thinking about it because I was like, there's so much more visibility. It's only to our followers, whoever's speaking, their followers, but it's just always there on the screen.
Yeah.
Which is unlike YouTube or even Twitch. Well, I mean, Twitch, it's sort of the case because it's always over on the left. But it always stands out to me. I'm like, oh, I can see like 3 or 4 people are on spaces right now.
Oh, yeah. No, I always do.
Want to see it or not.
I don't know if you know Matt Krotz. He does a book called Kanye.
Yeah.
Right? He's always doing his like Kumbaya spaces and stuff. And there's been times I've been tempted to jump in, but it's like, I'm not hopping on my phone, Krotz. Maybe I'll get an emulator.
Well, you can listen.
Point. I could. Yeah, I can listen from the desktop. But...
Yeah. Yeah, anyone can listen from the desktop. But anyway.
And I really like Krotz too. It's like, I don't know. I would like to jump into a space, but Elon, please give me the ability to do this from my desktop.
Yeah, I don't get that. I've got a perfectly good microphone on my laptop and on my desktop. I don't understand.
And I don't know.
But, it's also
like a problem with botting or whatever, but he should know this more than anyone, that most of the botting is actually done through phones in like other countries. They just get like, you've ever seen those mounts where they have like 50 phones set up on a shelf all plugged in, and that's how they do their botting. It's easier to do that with a phone than otherwise.
Yeah.
Because everyone
I'm trying to figure out
a unique IP.
Wasn't there a way, like, in the tweet, I thought there was supposed to be a new button that basically made you do a live stream just directly in a tweet.
Oh, I don't know.
But I don't know.
I know there's a way to do it because we used to do it. Restream is set up specifically to just skip that step for you, but I don't know.
Right. But yeah, spaces are...
They're hot.
Interesting to me.
A lot of people
they really are.
Listen to.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah. I think we should try it. Let's plan to try it.
Yeah. If we do it though, I will probably jump in as the Vomitorium account then. Just as a form of advertising, and get people to follow that account too.
Yeah. And we can just throughout the show we'll just mention, the YouTube channel and, follow the Twitter account.
If you're following us on Twitch or YouTube and you're listening to this, whether now or I think the VOD stays up for a few days anyway. I don't know how long Twitch does it anymore, but you should totally
7 days.
Follow, subscribe, do whatever you got to do on whatever platform you are. Give us like a like or whatever. And actually do those things that everybody tells you to do that we never bother to, because a lot of the times I find it disruptive to the show. But because we're talking about it right now, you should do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Push all the buttons that you're supposed to push.
Yeah. Just none of the ones you're not supposed to push, like that triple dot
Right.
that leads to the report. Don't do that.
Yeah. If you see a little flag icon on the button that you're about to push, don't push it.
Though I would be kind of proud if we got banned from Twitch. So, have a good reason for it. At least have us violate their policies, and then I'll be happier about it, because I want to violate their policies.
Oh my God, I was watching Ricada last night, and man, the slurs were flying, just like,
Oh, yeah.
I think he was just like, I've actually, I mean, it's not that he's never been this drunk before, but I don't think I've ever seen him this drunk before.
Yeah.
Like last night, he was really wasted. And I mean, even before he went to Rumble exclusively, while he was on YouTube, he was just dropping the F slur and the N slur. And I was like, oh my God, he's going to get banned. It's crazy.
What? We need to bring back what swear word nobody uses anymore. We need to bring back cur. We need to be able to call people curs. For people who don't know what that means, it's basically more of like the unisex version of calling someone a bitch. It's a lovely word. You're just a downright worthless, mangy dog, usually like a stray or a mutt.
Yeah.
We should bring it back. I like cur.
Yeah. That's not really a slur. I don't know.
No, well, it's not a slur, but it's a good insult.
It's an insult, I guess.
It's a swear word at the very least.
Yeah.
And you know what? It might be a slur to furries. Or at least we should try to make it one.
Yeah. There's a tweet by, I guess it was Scott Adams the other day, where he was talking about, how we shouldn't worry about people deciding to date AI instead of real women. And he was like, what are you worried about? The furries exist. Like, how is this any worse?
Well, yeah, and it's also like, the people who are going to be dating AI are going to be so socially anxious that I think they've kind of already removed themselves from the gene pool. You might as well at least let them have some type of pleasure in their life.
Yeah, it's not like the choice is between dating an AI or dating a real woman. It's dating an AI or nothing, probably.
I kind of agree with them there. I've had that response for a while. It's kind of like the Futurama episode with Dating the Robot, and they had their cheesy little, what's it called? Their PSA.
Don't date robots.
Right?
Yeah.
And in their PSA, it was this case where people think it's going to be like a jock who decides to date a robot instead of a real person. But like a jock would be too full of themselves to date a robot, right? Because he thinks he can get a girl, right? But then the people who actually get it are people like Fry, who has trouble dating people anyway.
Yeah. But in that case, it was a full-on robot that was basically, looks and acts and feels like a real woman, except all she wants to do is make out.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what it's going to lead to. I mean, AI is going to be that way.
Yeah.
Right now, it's just internet dating, which a lot of people do anyway, like long distance. It's just you can never touch the thing for long distance dating. And eventually, they'll have physical robot bodies that you could purchase to put the AI in, and you could model to look exactly like it. So I still don't think there's a problem, though, because, again, I don't think the jock would ever be in that situation. It'd be part of his pride would be actually landing the girl. It's like, where's the sport in a robot, right? I actually don't think healthy people would opt into dating a very attractive robot over a real person.
No.
I do think it's going to end up with just people who are struggling anyway.
Yeah. I guess you could say it might be people who are on the cusp.
Yeah,
people
that
who,
would be a worry. Somebody who could, but then may not.
Yeah. Not like, people who have a lot of luck with women, but people who just maybe a little.
And just need to try one or two more times.
Yeah. Like people who just have to work at it a little bit more than otherwise. Or you just, spend whatever it'll cost, a couple $1,000, and you've got a sex robot that
it could actually be used
talks
for
and acts.
A good purpose too, right? We could reformat that for like dating coaches to use. We could create a rejection simulator, right, where you just keep trying at it until you don't get rejected, and you're like, you're ready, let's go.
Or you could program them to, in between whatever, carnal pleasures, have it, brainwash them and be like, vote for Trump, vote for Trump.
No, what you need to do is you need to make them really needy, right? So they fulfill that kind of like purpose, but also you need to make them like twice as needy as an actual woman, so that there's like, God, I need to find something better. And you're like, listen, there's women out there. They're needy, but they're only half as needy as this robot.
Yeah. You'd have a lot of, I don't know. They'd end up getting destroyed and filling up landfills, I think, if you did that. Or maybe you could turn them in,
Yeah.
Get a refund, partial refund.
Melted down because nobody wants to use a used robot. It's like you have to just make it from scratch.
Would you buy a secondhand sex robot?
No, I would not. I wouldn't even buy a new sex robot, but especially not a secondhand one.
Yeah. Then what do they say? Lightly used or whatever?
Yeah. In this case, lightly loved.
Yeah. You.
Yeah. But better news for people who are watching us and not, I don't know, off in the ether. When you're done here, you can go to the youtube.com/ I think it's just Newgrounds Festivals, and watch the Newgrounds Summerfest that's going on. It's been going on since yesterday. It's been going on since like noonish today, depending on your time zone. And it's actually going on right now. I'm missing it to run the show, but I set the schedule, so priorities, damn it. I gotta meet my own schedule.
Yeah.
But it's been fun. Good panels. You can learn a lot of stuff. There's only been like a couple that I'm like, I didn't really care for, but they're still all good.
Sounds good.
Let's roll into things. You got anything particularly you want to get to before I start hitting any of these tabs that I have open?
Well, I don't know there's much to talk about with this, so it might be short. It looks like, at least there's a rumor that the next Nintendo Direct might have GameCube news, which I assume
I hope
would be something like a GameCube, channel or emulator, whatever, for the Switch, maybe.
Yeah, if that happens though, it's definitely going to be in the extended plan. It's not going to be native.
Yeah, I'm trying to see. We have a heavy focus on Super Mario Brothers Wonder and Super Mario RPG and the new Princess Peach game. And that it's very likely... actually, what he's saying is GameCube remasters for the Switch, including...
that would be more likely than an actual emulator, given what they were doing.
Well, that's even more interesting.
Because the Wii U had a few GameCube remasters on it.
Yeah, so possibly Metroid Prime 2 remastered on the Switch, and HD... Well, I don't know why they would even have to do HD remasters because they've already done them. Wind Waker and Twilight Princess.
They might be touching it up.
They could just...
Because technically,
a little.
The Switch runs at a higher capacity than the Wii U. I mean, the screen's going to... undocked is the same. There's like no difference there in quality. But the whole capacity of the system is stronger than the Wii U. So they might be like, hey, we can blend the shadows and stuff better now with the shader model. So...
Were the HD remasters of those like only 720p or it must have been 1080?
I think they were 720 on the handheld, upscaled to 1080 on the screen, because you could you had to use both screens or whatever. But yeah.
I mean, I was thinking, whenever people talk about that, I'm like, they already did that, with the HD Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. But the more I think about it, it's like, but who owned a Wii U? Nobody fucking owned a Wii U.
The other thing is, like, if Wind Waker specifically used two screens because they had the quick swap, like the quick menu, which you can't do on the Switch. So they have to actually reformat it to work on the Switch anyway.
Yeah, but it originally it was on the GameCube, so it didn't have that originally. No, so they just have to go back to the original design.
Backwards. Yeah, but they're basically they have all the assets for the HD ones because they're very new. Which
Yeah.
luckily I know for Wind Waker specifically, they said they had all the assets for Wind Waker. Most of what they did was changing like the shader model and how like light was around things. So because they have all of that, they can just update it to the shader model of the Switch. They can go backwards to make it work that way. Twilight Princess, I know they made a lot of the models from scratch because they were missing some, but there was just a lot of the same, just updating the shader model. They can do that again. But they have the Wii U version. Like all the assets of it still will be easy for them to do.
Plus, they already the nice thing about the Wii U version of Wind Waker is they made it so much better than the GameCube version. They vastly shortened the annoying Triforce treasure hunt section that everybody complained about originally in the original.
Yeah,
It just took forever. They improved the whole pirate map thing.
I have a mid take.
You disagree?
I have a mid take. I actually think the original one was better, but I understand people's complaints. I think the first time you do it, it's actually a wonderful adventure, but it's so long that it makes you hesitant to replay the game again anytime soon.
Yeah. Yeah, when I had it on GameCube, and I can attest that I played it through once and never again. But I did play it again in the HD version, beginning to end, and I liked it.
Yeah. I would say I think the original is actually a better first-time adventure because of that, but the HD version is far more replayable. Yeah, which is great, right?
So,
because if you played the original version and then the second time you ever played it was the HD version, you get that replayable experience from the beginning. So,
yeah. My question is, are they going to bring back the Tingle Tuner?
Oh God, I wish. I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
The only way I could see them doing that, though, it's like if it was part of
Connect
Nintendo
your,
Switch Online.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, because
Instead
I don't
of
think
the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah, I don't think it has like the 3DS connect. It might. I don't know if you can use your 3DS as a controller like you could in Smash on the Wii U, but the Wii U was designed to communicate directly with the 3DS, which is why I got so pissed off the Tingle Tuner wasn't in it. It's like you could just use download play. You literally could just use download play on the 3DS. And why? You built the whole system around that idea.
I think they just figured it was too... Well, I mean, you didn't have to use it.
You didn't.
So, I mean, it would have been nice if you had the option.
But that's why I was so excited for a lot of these, like, potential, because they were talking about before the system ended, like, a year or two earlier than its original track set was, for more GameCube remakes. And if there were, I was hoping a lot of them had Game Boy Advance plug-in connectivity to it, and I wanted that. And the 3DS would have been perfect for it. And then it's like, nope, sorry.
I think they just... Whatever extra work that would have taken, they just were like...
I think they had all these big plans for the Wii U, and especially because it wasn't as successful as it was, they just dropped a lot of them. Because, like, the Wii U is actually designed to host up to 2 gamepads, but because the Wii U just wasn't that popular, nobody ever really made a game that could make use of 2 gamepads.
Yeah.
Like, you could have put the Tingle Tuner on another gamepad, but that would also assume that enough people bought it that they would bring their gamepad over to do it. So.
Yeah, I was looking at every time I look at the sales charts for the Wii U, it's always shocking to me. I'm just like,
little got sold.
I forget. Yeah, I forget like how few of them were sold, and every time I look at it, I'm like, oh, that's why. Yeah, that's why they ported everything to Switch, and that's why they didn't bother with this or that.
It's like twice the Dreamcast or something, or because the Dreamcast was a failure. This
was it even?
Or is it 3 times? I don't know. I'm trying to remember how much it was.
I'm not even sure it was very much.
I think it outsold the Dreamcast. I'm pretty sure, because the Dreamcast is like one of the biggest gaming failures of a prominent console legacy. It ended a console legacy.
Yeah, I know. I mean, if Nintendo weren't a freaking juggernaut, the Wii U could have been that, But it's like, well, but Nintendo has like a freaking $1 trillion. So,
oh yeah. They said we could fail for the next decade in a row and we're still set.
Yeah,
is what they said during the Wii U.
Yeah, the Wii U sold 13.5 million units, and the Dreamcast was 9.
9. Okay, so it wasn't quite 2.
Yeah.
It was like 1.5 or whatever. But still,
Yeah.
it's pretty bad.
I mean, like literally, the Switch has sold more than 10, well, about 10 times as much.
Yep.
10 times the Wii U. That's insane. The DS has sold like 12 times as much.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, every time I look at that, I'm like, God, 13 million. That's like nothing. That's like some third party piece of shit, like Wonder Swan or something. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, so that's why they like to port everything. And I guess they're going to be, the rumor is that they're going to be talking about porting some more GameCube games.
Yeah,
or
well,
some.
you know, thankfully Nintendo is one of the richest entertainment companies on the planet. Mostly thanks to Pokemon,
Yep.
but hey, Mario's no slouch either.
Yeah. They don't have Metroid Prime 3 on the Switch yet, do they?
I have
don't
no
think so.
clue. I know they did the
So-
HD remake of 1. That's the only one I knew about,
Yeah.
and 2 is kind of probably on its way from what we can tell. Which, you know,
Yeah. So yeah, I'm guessing they're probably going to get to 3 and then hopefully 4.
yeah, well, this is actually better than we were expecting, right? Because when we were talking about rumors of them getting remakes, I think probably 6 or so months ago, what we were thinking was, oh, to prep for 4, we're probably going to get like a trilogy package of the 3 of them that aren't quite HD. They're just like upscaled or whatever. But no, we're probably going to get individual HD remakes of each of them, which I think is better. Sadly,
yeah.
Hunters is probably going to be left to the wayside, but at least we get 1 through 3.
Yeah. Well, I've only heard good things about I actually own it, but I haven't actually played it. It's sitting
Yeah.
there waiting for me to play it. But the Metroid Prime 1 HD remake is supposedly pretty good. So.
Yeah. I only
Yeah,
heard
I
one bad
wish-
thing about it, and it was relating to lighting and all that. It wasn't quite the same, but it's just because of the difference of the engines and everything from the
Yeah.
time, they had to find different ways of doing the lighting. So, like, your charge blasts going down hallways don't look the same as they did in the GameCube era. But that's it. That's like the only minor complaint I've really heard about it. So, if that's the only complaint, it's got to be great.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think it was a trade-off, and I think that like the overall lighting is better. It's
Probably,
just, they don't always. Yeah, they had to do it a different way because it's just a different engine. So, I kind of wish that they would port Samus Returns from the 3DS, but I don't think they're gonna.
I don't think
I
we're
feel
going
like-
to get a lot, if any, 3DS ports until the system's old enough.
Dark
so like
Moon.
maybe on the next Switch, like the 2 or whatever they're going to
Yeah.
call it, that they're like, oh,
They are
okay,
bringing
this
over
is-
Dark Moon.
Yeah. This is
That's about it.
retro enough now that we want to bring it over, right? And I think it's
Yeah.
really going to be, I don't think any game that actually sold well on the 3DS is coming over until the next system. Dark Moon didn't sell very well. A lot of people didn't pick it up, so.
Well, yeah, and I was thinking about it, it's like, well, I don't think it would sell well, Samus Returns, because if you compare it to Metroid Dread, it's just not as good. It would look like a downgrade.
And priorities. You can
like-
play, I think, I don't know if it's been added yet, but it was on the list of things that will be added. You will be able to play Metroid 2 on the GBA or the GB emulator. If it's not there already, it was on the list that was leaked. So it'll probably be next
Metroid,
year.
like,
The
the Game
original
Boy?
Game Boy
Oh,
Metroid
wow.
2. Yeah.
I think it's already on there.
It might be. I don't
I think it
remember
was
if
on
it was
there.
added yet.
Yeah.
It was on the leaked list when people
But I
first brought
mean-
it out. It's not as good by
Yeah.
any metric. It's actually
It's not.
probably
It's-
the worst Metroid game. If you
Yeah,
play it.
it's barely even the same game. It's like it's not the same.
Well, I mean,
It's
aside from the
I-
bonus boss,
yeah.
you're following the same path.
sort of, yeah.
It's about as
But,
much as the same game in some ways as saying Zero Mission is Metroid 1.
Yeah, I guess.
And the Zero Mission just feels so much better to play than Metroid 1.
Yeah, but I mean, Samus Return, it's
Yeah.
unbelievable, like light years ahead. It's just, yeah. I feel Yeah. I feel like if they did it, and I don't know if it would be worth the money, they would need to like release it for like, I don't know, 10 or 15 bucks. Almost like I wish that Dread had included it as like DLC for Dread, like a different mode, like Samus Returns mode or something, you know? Because like, yeah, I loved it at the time, but Dread just blew it out of the water so much.
Yeah.
That I'm
Well,
like,
again, like I said, priorities. So it's like the fact that there is a version of that story that you can play on the Switch, right?
yeah,
And it actually sold pretty well on the 3DS. I don't think they're in a rush to do that.
yeah,
And we've got other games that other people are complaining about. Even the people who made the game are like, hey, you should port this. That would probably be higher in the list. Like, I don't think Kid Icarus Uprising is ever coming, but I think it's probably higher priority than Samus Returns is.
I'd get
would
it.
love it too. I would love it
Even though
Sakurai wants it too as well.
I didn't play it very much on the 3DS, but I feel like I'd play it more on the Switch for some reason.
I
just didn't have time,
the
I
shit
guess.
out of it on the 3DS, and I'd probably still end up playing it more on the Switch. Because I would.
I guess my only my only problem with it is probably the thing that a lot of people, maybe even you, like about it is that it was kind of a collectathon, wasn't it? It was kind of like weren't you like getting all these weapons and combining weapons and stuff like that?
In some ways, it actually kind of felt like a gacha game where you only had the one main character, but you're trying to get the weapons for it. But I mean, a lot of older games were like this, and I think that's where gacha games eventually got it. It's like, we could just do that and monetize it. But
you'd get all these random weapons and
these like fractured crystals, and you would break it and a weapon would come out of it, and there'd be different weapon types.
It's a gacha game.
Yeah, and you got the better weapons along the way. Yeah, but I didn't think it was.
But you could also like combine them, couldn't you, or trade them in?
Like,
there was something you could do.
Them basically, like if you salvage them, you could
to improve your existing ones.
But what it did was it basically just gave you a higher quality crystal, because that's how it worked. So if you salvage the weapons, it gave you the parts, and then you got like, oh, I've got the diamond thing, and you broke it, and it's like there's an S rank weapon or whatever. Because you could tell how strong the weapon was going to be by like the color of the gem you were breaking. So at the beginning of the game, you only got the low color ones. When you play on the higher difficulty levels and stuff later, because you could increase the difficulty, you would get the higher crystals to break. You also get them from Street Pass. That was a cool thing. There was a lot of Street Pass interactivity with that game.
Yeah. God, that would sell so well these days. Like, people are so into that.
Yeah.
It's basically a gacha game. They just market it as that, and people love it. Yeah,
except you only ever spend in-game currency of some sort. So it's like you bought the game. Everything's in there. It's just a lottery system.
They could add monetization to it, I suppose. I don't know if I want that.
I don't know if you'd want to, but I mean, so the thing is, I think, especially because the only character is Pit, and the big part about gacha, because only competitive people roll for weapons, and your stats didn't matter in the PvP in that game. It was more about the skills and stuff that you equip to your character. That
there was PvP in that game.
There was a versus mode. You could play online and fight each other,
like actual live people.
Yeah, and you could do like 4v4s and stuff too.
Man, I completely forgot about that.
Yeah.
God damn, they should really bring that over.
Yeah, no, it was a very fun game.
That would be so successful.
It was made by the guy who made Smash. Of course, there's PvP.
Oh wow. So it sounds like it was like ahead of its time. Like that seems like something that would be even more popular today.
Yeah, I think it came out too early on the 3DS. If it came out during like after Smash for the 3DS, because it came out before the Wii U and 3DS version of Smash did. If it came out afterwards, it probably would have done better. The problem was they didn't have like a real system seller at the time that Uprising came out.
Yeah. I think it was, that was one of the first games I got for the 3DS. And I think I didn't get it.
I think it came out the spring after the DS came out. Right? There was the DS, and the next spring, I think, is when Uprising came out.
Yeah, I think up until then, I mostly just played my old DS games. I probably had like Super Mario with 3D World or whatever it's called, or 3D Land, if that came out first. But I
The
remember.
thing is, though,
And for some reason, I never figured out how to turn off the stylus mode.
if there were other characters, you could easily turn that into a gotcha game. And again, people only
Okay.
pay for weapons if they're competitive. Like that's what the whales do. Your average person, they just want more characters, right? So they'll use the in-game currency
Yeah.
or a little money or whatever for in-game characters. Speaking of, I still have not gotten Kafka on my main account yet. I think it's going to force me to hit hard pity, and I actually don't know if I'll be able to grind enough in-game currency by that time. I'm
Yeah.
like 10 pulls away from hitting hard pity, but there's only like 3 days left. So if you guys want to see me hit Kafka on my main account, you can always donate to streamlabs.com/vomitorium live, and I might even do the poll live. Who cares? But that's what people want. They want characters for the most part. And Kid Icarus actually has plenty of characters that even from that game people love, especially if they got like the voice actors back. Like you would be able to pull Palutena, Viridi, Magnus, Dark Pit, right? And actually play them through different, like you could replay the game with them instead of just playing as Pit. That would make a game sell. Or if you want to just make a new one with the gacha in mind. Like people would love that.
Yeah.
But I don't trust Nintendo to do it right because look at how bad, or how what's that term that they like? How God, I'm trying to think of it. The one that the governments like to use when they talk about gotcha games being like deceptive or malicious practices, right? How like malicious Fire Emblem Heroes and Mario Kart Tour were. I actually want Nintendo to be like the last people in charge of making a gotcha game.
Yeah. Yeah, what was that Pokemon
Pokemon Masters is bad.
game?
That one's actually not that bad.
Is that what it's called? The one where you had to like dunk the balls in the hoops?
Oh no,
I think
that's
it's something
Pokemon
else.
Unite.
Yeah,
Which
yeah, that's
it's
what I was
kinda.
thinking.
It's not really gotcha-y to some degree. It's like how League is ran,
Yeah.
right? No, they do have a Pokemon gotcha game. It's called Pokemon Masters, and it is successful, very, very successful. And the whole thing around that game is that you're doing Pokemon battles, and you can do like these 3v3s or whatever, or you still 1v1s, but you have 3 trainers on your team, and you're basically pulling for the trainer, right, from the series that you're familiar with, and that trainer comes with a Pokemon. So you're trying to pull for the trainers to have a good roster, but also because they're your favorite trainers. So like everyone pulls for Cynthia when she's like on banner because everybody likes Cynthia. But like you have everyone, you've Ash is there. It's like a lot of the or is it? No, I think it's all the game versions. But like so like Red is there. But like all the ones, Dawn is there, May is there, all the ones you know, all the gym leaders. You can get like Lieutenant Surge. Every one of them. And it does very well because of that. They have like Christmas outfits for Dawn and stuff like which has a different Pokemon. Like a Christmas character might have a Delibird or something, right? Or an Ice type just because it matches. And it does very, very well, as you would expect. But it's a fun game. It's still, you feel like you're playing Pokemon. And so I think what does well for a gacha game is it has to have fun mechanics on top of not being too dark and deceptive or malicious with their practices.
Mm-hmm. Still, well, that's the only. I'm looking around, but I can't find many other stories. So
Okay.
that's all I had.
I got stuff. So, one cool thing. This can be quick. We won't talk much about it. Somebody. I don't think this is actually. No. Netflix did this. So there were rumors that the Netflix version, for the Japanese version of One Piece, where they'll take the Netflix live action they're doing and they'll redub it in Japanese so they can watch it, will actually have the original voice cast. That was a rumor. Then Netflix had shared a version of the trailer with the Japanese dub, and it had the original voice cast. They don't know if this is actually the official trailer. Netflix just shared it. I think maybe somebody made it. But Netflix had previously announced that the original cast would be back. So they confirmed those rumors. The entire live action show will be dubbed by the Japanese voice cast of One Piece. So that's actually, if I watch it, I do want to give the first season a try. I may end up just watching it in Japanese with English subtitles on. Like that might be how I try to experience it. It might be the best experience. Nothing against these actors. Actually, the guy who plays Luffy, like I said before when we watched the trailer, he actually his character comes off like he wants to be there as an actor. While at least two of the other ones, it wasn't like their characters didn't want to be there. It's like the actors didn't want to be there. So you're not going to get that problem with any of the Japanese voice actors who normally do the characters in the show. So that might actually be the best way to experience it.
Yeah, can you watch that in the US, or you'd have to use a VPN?
No, it's going to be the official Japanese dub. So all you have to do is go to the languages.
Oh, you can switch it.
Yeah,
okay.
You could change the subtitle and audio languages independently on Netflix.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see if they finally get one of these right. Live action adaptations.
Yep. Fizz Joseph's here. He says, "Why would I care about an idiotic action adaptation of One Piece?" Well, that's a good thing. You don't have to care. That's up to you. But One Piece is actually a really good story. It's not my favorite, but it's a good show, good manga, and some of us care to at least give it a try. Where even the producer came out, right, and said that they learned their lesson from Cowboy Bebop, and he's like, fans actually just want an adaptation that's true to the source material. Like, he just outright said that. And was like,
imagine that.
Good, you understand. That makes me want to actually give this a try more.
Yeah.
And everybody's ragging.
Yeah, we'll see if they actually do it.
It's going to be goofy. There's things that don't look right in live action. It's like, why would I want something to look right in a One Piece live action thing? One Piece is supposed to be cartoony. Hell, if anybody's kept up with the story, the anime just got to the part where Luffy gets Gear 5, and Gear 5 literally gives him toon powers. Right? I want it to look goofy. That's how it should look, even if you did it live action.
I mean, the only people complaining about that are people who liked Cowboy Bebop, I guess. I mean,
no, I've actually seen people who watched all of One Piece complaining about, like, but it's not just One Piece. There's this certain mindset that some people have. Some like actual anime fans. It's like, just watch an anime form. Anime can't translate to live action, which I think is false. I've seen quite a few good anime that translate to live action. I think the Bleach movie did a pretty good job. Rurouni Kenshin, which is more of a down-to-earth story anyway, wonderful trilogy that tells its story in live action. That even got the Funimation actors to do an English dub for if you don't want to read subtitles. I highly recommend watching it. Maybe we'll do a movie night for the Rurouni Kenshin trilogy at some point in time. But I think it can translate well. I just think most of the time it hasn't been translated well. Part of it could be budget. Part of it could be artistic vision. Fizz says Scott Pilgrim did it better. Yeah, and you could do Scott Pilgrim with like any anime as well. Like it would work. You could do it. You just have to have the right artistic vision. You need a good director behind it and the right like special effects crew. Some of your special effects you need to try to do as practical as possible. I think that's part of what really sells it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't believe the whole you can't do this, that, or the other thing.
Yeah.
It's just like, just because it hasn't been done doesn't mean it can't be done.
And honestly,
or
it kind of has been
you're
done
saying
in
it
many
has.
cases. Yeah. So I haven't watched that little trailer. I'm going to see if I like it better with the Japanese voices. I probably will, because honestly, I thought visually there was a lot of cool stuff in the trailer that we saw. It was the acting that bothered me a little bit. It was mostly just Sanji and Nami. I didn't care for the acting between those two in the spots. It could be like the Mario movie, though, where I did not like the two voice roles or lines that they chose for Jack Black. They were like the two times in the whole movie he sounded like Jack Black and not Bowser. It could have been like the two spots in the whole like first few episodes where they just sound like the actors were phoning it in. They could do a wonderful job in the rest of it, for all I know.
Yeah. Yeah, who picks those clips for the trailers?
Usually it's a third party. Like it's not the crew that's working on the series. They send it off to marketing, and marketing has to go through everything and figure out which ones they want to use.
Yeah.
Can anyone
adapt a video game?
Yeah,
I
it's been
mean,
done. It's
I think Tomb Raider was pretty good, wasn't it? The original?
I like Tomb Raider. I can definitely understand some people's opinions where they think it's not a good movie. I think it's a great Tomb Raider movie. It adapts a Lara Croft story perfectly. It's basically Tomb Raider Underworld. If you're familiar with Tomb Raider Underworld, it's basically the same story that's going on there. But let me think of other ones. Resident Evil could have been a good adaptation. I think visually they got it right. It's just they didn't bother to tell an actual Resident Evil story.
Yeah. I liked the original Resident Evil, even though it wasn't really...
Yeah. I think I had fun watching them all the way through 4.
Yeah.
But 4 was on the line for me, and that's why I never watched 5. It was just like, You couldn't sell me with Leon in 5. I'm sorry. I'm not coming back.
Yeah. I think I've seen them all, but I didn't really like any of them past the first one.
Yeah. I think the original Mortal Kombat, given like the time that it was made and how much Mortal Kombat lore there was at the time, I love the original Mortal Kombat movie. I think it's a great adaptation. I even think it still kind of holds up if you think about like the time at which it was made, because aside from the skull, which was like the biggest cheesy part of it for Scorpion, most of the other stuff was practical effects. So even like cheesy walking Goro still kind of blends into the environment and works well enough that like I can enjoy that anytime I watch it. I think it's a very enjoyable movie.
Wasn't that movie the one that came up with sort of the song, Mortal Kombat song? Yeah.
The one that we're kind of like all familiar with.
Yeah. It was like, that actually didn't come from the game. It came from the movie.
But speaking of video game related movies done in live action, even though it has nothing to do with the game's story, it's a story surrounding the game, the Gran Turismo movie is actually projected that it might be the #1 box office movie this weekend when it comes out. I don't know if it's already come out or not.
I saw
a couple days ago.
Yeah, I saw Yellow Flash tweeted that he loved it. He gave it like a 9 out of 10.
Projection is 1.4 million based on 1.4 million was the Thursday previews. Sorry. So the projection number is
that's not
12 to 15. 12 to 15 million is the projection for this weekend. Which it doesn't have a lot of competition, but that's actually a good opening weekend number for something like that.
Yeah. I wonder what the budget was on that.
I don't know.
But
I know it was very practical.
It looks good to me.
A lot of the driving's like actual driving. Like obviously there was some like rough driving involved in there, running into each other. A lot of that stuff is staged with computer graphics, but like a lot of like you see a car going down a track or road is actually a car going down a track or a road. So they were probably able to save a lot on the budget because of that.
That's pretty cool. The budget was $60 million.
Yeah, which is not that bad for a big budget movie these days. You know,
that's not bad at all. And so far they've brought in $30 million in only 2 weeks. So that's pretty good.
Remember back when you could just go and make a movie for like $100,000?
Yeah. I know, it's like 60 million seems like a low amount these days for sort of a big time.
Disney throwing $300 million at something, like, you guys are insane.
Like, how are you ever gonna make that money back? It's crazy. Because I think we've figured out that, like, whatever the box office is, you have to cut that in half right from the start, because half of that goes to the theaters.
Oh yeah. So you're like I think we've said you have to make an additional 2.5 times. So your total is going to be 350%, right? That's what needs to be made to make everything up, and then profit on top of that. because
Yeah,
you have to
you have
cover
to make at
marketing
least
too.
3 times as much. It's crazy.
350% to make up what you did based on theater, marketing, and everything else that gets involved.
Yeah. Of course, they do. I guess they make money on the DVD sales and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and streaming.
But the problem is you just won't make as much money off of that as you will from the initial theater part, right? That's where they make most of their money. So that's why you're hoping you make all your money back in the theaters, because then all of your like DVDs and stuff like that after that, that's just bonus. That's actual profits at that point, really. Because distribution doesn't cost them that much. They don't even count about that.
Right. Well, cool. I might have to go see that at some point.
Modern films use reshoots for everything. Sort of. That's not exactly how it works, though. There are a lot of reshoots that happen. We saw that with Snyder's Justice League, where they had for his like cuts, or not for him, for who's the guy who came in and finished it, because he had to do some reshoots, right? Because Snyder.
Yeah, it was Zack Snyder.
Well, he finished his cut. The guy who.
Oh, you mean Joss Whedon?
Yeah, so Whedon had to come in and have a lot of reshoots to finish his version of the movie before we finally got the Snyder cut, because Snyder got all of his shoots done. But the way that modern movies are kind of done, especially if you're doing it that kind of the Disney Marvel method, which a lot of people are doing, that is they will shoot excess, like almost 6 movies worth of scenes. So it's not a reshoot; they're almost like pre-shoots if you think about it, and then. That way, if they want to change the movie in editing, they can kind of pick the direction that they're going to go with the movie. And that's also why you see a lot of like close-ups on people's faces to show emotions while people are talking, because a lot of times it's to cover up ADR that changed the scene during it. And a lot of movies look very flat because of that, so they can take the movie in any direction. And you don't get like these really nice long panning shots during conversations that Spielberg used to do.
Yeah, it's crazy that they don't seem to know what they're doing with the movie until they end. Until
they don't know what movie
stage.
they're shooting until they edit it.
Crazy.
When you have a vision like Spielberg, or Scorsese's another guy in this camp who has wonderful dialogue shots, they have a vision and they know exactly what movie they're making when they go into it. And sometimes they make some changes, but a lot of that's going to be a change in execution, not a change in the actual like direction of the movie.
I mean, whatever happened to having writers?
Yeah.
It's like, don't they write these things up ahead of time? Like, not even before it even gets to the director.
Now we understand part of the writer strike too. When you think about this, they have to keep the writers on set because they're constantly writing the movie.
Yeah, rewriting stuff.
There was actually something that was said about both of these are travesties. Horrible movies. I don't know why anybody liked either of them. Other than like the latter of these two, I guess, had a couple redeemable moments in it. But Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, which I still think is the worst movie in the entire MCU, that Sam Raimi could not save it if he tried. And Quantumania, Ant-Man and Wasp. Both of these movies, in the behind the scenes, you have people talking about like the writer of Multiverse of Madness basically even admitted that he was writing it as they were going along, because they threw out the last script that was done, the one that he came in and did in 2 weeks, and they're like, whatever, we're just going to write it as we do it. And in Quantumania, you even have like Murray in behind the scenes with the writer there patting. He was like, yeah, he's basically writing the script as we're doing it. Right? And it's like, well, yeah, that's why these movies are coming out the way they are.
Yeah. How do actors even like learn their lines? I mean,
yeah. Well, what they'll do is they'll have like a pre-scene, a version of the scene that they'll have before they go to like a script to give them, and then the writer will be there with the director, and they'll just come up with new lines or whatever on the scene if they need to, which isn't that hard because a lot of improv happens in scenes. So if improv goes a little too far and they like it, like, I don't know, Murray's there and he says something funny, then they definitely want everybody else to play off of it. So the writer needs to be there to help make new lines to play off of it. That part makes sense, but if you had talented actors, you know how to improv. If you had a full script developed that you're pretty much sticking to, you don't really even need the writer there. Like, directors are writers. They're just not script writers. They're the ones that are supposed to solve it. You can give a new line to an actor right there. That's the point of being a director. You can change anything. It's your job to have the final say in anything. Why do you need writers on set?
Yeah, and I mean the fact that they were asking for, like, whenever there's a writer's room, like having like 6 or 12, some ridiculous number of writers, like, guaranteed in every room, and it's like, well, that's why the movie's gonna suck. Like, you writing by committee.
Yeah,
I mean,
they
used to have one or maybe 2 writers.
Yeah, 3 is the limit. I want no more than 3 writers on a movie, right?
Yeah.
And one of those I would prefer to be the director. If it's like the director plus 2 writers, I'm like, okay, I could see that being a good script. You know, like maybe the director, he has like the main outline, the main way the movie's going, passes it off. Those other 2 writers, they go in and they actually expand on everything, make some full scenes and stuff. And then the director goes back over and it's like, yeah, I like that. I like that. You need to rewrite this. That one's good. And then he has like a finalized script, hands it out to everybody, and they're going to shoot based off of that script. And then, if the director's one of the writers too in that case, then you also know if they do need to change something in the shooting, he'll know what to do. You know, like, he can change it himself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a terrible time. It's the timing for the writer's strike is absolutely awful, because it's like they just, all these huge, big budget movies just came out that lost hundreds of millions of dollars. And the studios are saying, what are we even paying these people for?
Yeah. Well, I think it's in some ways it is an over commercialization of art, right? Because it's not like movies haven't been commercial for a long time, but at least it was still commerce based off of a vision. You would have a vision to whatever is going on, and you would try to sell that. But we've seen genres even in the past that people thought were crap because of over commercialization. Let's look at the rom-com. Rom-coms are probably the genre that have the most films in it out of any genre, but how many good rom-coms can you think of off the top of your head, right? Even most of them are on like Lifetime, right? That's where the bloat comes from. And most of them don't really have a vision. Like you can name like a Ryan Reynolds one, because he pretty much only signs up for a movie if he thinks there's a vision to it, right? But it's like, no, it's Marvel has, and these other superhero movies have hit the rom-com stage of their life, where it's again, it's not superhero fatigue. It's not even blockbuster fatigue, because we're seeing it outside of the superhero. It's a lack of artistic vision fatigue. People just don't want to see crap that's being churned out to make money.
Yeah.
Happened to West.
Yeah, and when a union strikes, the best time to strike is when the company's doing great.
Oh yeah.
Because it's like, they're making all this money. Yeah, they're making all this money, and they're not passing it down to the union workers. So we know they have the money. We know we're doing a good job because we're helping the company succeed. So now's a great time to be like, hey, you want to keep doing.
Oh yeah, because you can use
successful.
Like a bell curve to explain it, right? Any trajectory of like a genre or industry trend, right? You want to take it. There's the beginning, then it starts building up and getting popular, and here's where you want to strike, right in the middle where it's like super good, maybe even slightly on the climb. You could do it a little bit on the as it goes down, but you still want it to be close to the peak. But we're here. We're on the tail end of the curve. This is absolutely the wrong time. You want to hop on some other trend and try to get that as it's climbing. You don't want to be here.
Yeah. Yeah, they needed to do the strike 5 years ago. Otherwise,
because it's not like conditions have really changed from 5 years ago, other than that there was more money floating around.
Right. I mean, well, the movies were being successful at the time.
Yeah, that's the only difference. Is like they had more money coming in, but they were still abusing all these people, and they're like, "Oh, we've had enough." It's like, you've had enough 5 years late.
Yeah.
Took you that long?
I mean, I kind of wonder if they didn't do it 5 years ago because they actually were, paying them more, and people were didn't have a problem with what was going on. But
Mhm.
like now, I feel like it's not that the studios are screwing over the writers; it's that they just don't have the money anymore. They just
Well,
the
we say
writers are
this
kind of screwing over the studios.
every trend, right? We can look at the spaghetti western as the trend, right? Because the spaghetti western came around the latter half of the western, and it became that way because they found out it was so much cheaper to go over there. So there were already some westerns that were being made there, but westerns had become so popular that everybody wanted to dip in on that western pocket of money, right? They just wanted to pull out of it, and they started churning them out. And the issue is, and this is what these big studios are doing now, they spread their resources too thin. It's like we can't have our eggs in any one basket, so everybody gets gypped. You're not just paying for quality, you're paying for quantity, so nobody's getting enough. And also, because you're not getting quality, nobody's making enough back either, and they're bleeding themselves dry with it. The same thing with comics in the comic store. It's like at one point in time, there was a limit. Companies could only have like 8 titles out at a time because it had to be like on the spinner rack or the newsstands and stuff. But now it's like, how many titles do any of these comic companies have out? Right? Like how many Marvel books are in your local comic book store? If you count more than 20, you're probably right and also groaning at the same time.
There's way too many. Wasn't there a time when DC cut it back to 52? Wasn't that like, we're going to cut back to, I was like,
don't remember exactly what the cutback was. 52 is just a number that shows up a lot with DC. But yeah, there was a time when they did have to roll back the number. Also, hey, Mike, dropping into like, share and say hi. But no, there was a time, even not too long ago, they did it again, where they were like, oh, we've got too many things, let's roll it back. And then they just started putting out more again because they started focusing on the families. So like, all these side comics aren't making us money, so we need to put out more Batman and more Superman. So let's have like 6 or 7 of each of those out at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think, no, what's not making you money is the lack of actual quality in your comics, which is why I think everybody should buy and support the Dawn of DC Superman, because it's actually a pretty good book that doesn't deal with a lot of the nonsense that has been going on for the last few years or so.
Yeah.
Like, canonically, Ken is still John Kent, but they sideline him, like, immediately. He's there in, like, a single panel. It's like, no, don't come in. We can't afford this to spread. I'll handle it myself. I'm like, thank you for that.
1, 2. It looks like there are currently 20 active Marvel titles, ongoing series, and 23 limited series.
Yeah.
Currently active. So it's like 43 books.
I knew it was 20
books.
plus. I didn't know it was that high, but I knew it was more than 20.
Yeah. Well, there's 20 ongoing series, but then there's like all these limited series that are only like 4 or 5 issues, but they're still, there's 43 new comics coming out every month.
And who can keep up with all that?
From Marvel alone.
Yeah. And DC's no better, right? So one of the things they were doing is they were relying on, you like this section, right? If it shows us like, what's the point of multiple titles with the same character? They would rely on like family titles. So it's like, you can't keep up with everything, but you probably can keep up with all of Superman, or you probably can keep up with all of Batman. So we're relying on people being turbo fans of these things, right?
Yeah.
But the reason there's multiple titles with the same characters is because marketing, this is their job actually, is to do research, but marketing doesn't do their job, and they don't understand why people like things. All they see is Batman do good, more Batman. So let's have 5 Batman books. Spider-Man do good, more Spider-Man. Let's have 6 Spider-Man books. That's why.
Yeah. Well, there's a ton of, it's interesting. I'm just looking at the list. There's a ton of different X-Men comics, which I kind of understand because there's a lot of different characters.
Like X-Men Gold, they have all these different things.
Red and X-Force, and there's this one specifically that's Wolverine.
You blame the 90s for that.
But there's only one Amazing Spider-Man and one Miles Morales, When I was in college, there were 4 ongoing Spider-Man comics.
Because you had Amazing and Spectacular Spider-Man at the same time.
Yeah, and there was Uncanny, I think. No, was it Uncanny?
No, Uncanny's the X-Men.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's right.
Uncanny.
No, there were 4.
Oh,
I remember because every other week there'd be 2 new ones, and then there'd be 2 different new ones 2 weeks later. So they went back and forth. So every month.
Mary Jane Loves Spider-Man was a comic that ran for a while too, and
yeah. But I actually loved it because maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there were only 2. Maybe it was like Amazing and Spectacular. But I remember them coming out constantly, and they would go back and forth. Like you'd have to read one, and then you'd have to read the other. Like the story would continue on the other one.
Yeah.
But there were clearly different artists, different writers
numbers as well too. It's because
right,
the number
with
would
different
match
numbers.
their title.
But if you wanted to follow the story, you had to get both because it would just otherwise you'd skip.
Yeah, it was just like a distribution of labor so they could get the books out faster. But it's like, okay, you're on this title, you're on this title. It's all the same story. Different art, same story.
Yeah, it was kind of cool though how they coordinated it, and it was like 2 different series, but the story would go back and forth. Yeah, maybe there were only 2 titles.
Why can't you just tell writers to make less popular characters relevant in popular books? Because that doesn't always work anyway. That's why they don't do it. What were you saying though? Let's finish it. I just wanted to get to that question.
No, I can't remember.
Okay.
How many specific titles there were. I just remember them coming out like every other week. And I maybe it was that there were 4 issues, like Spectacular would come out with 2 issues a month and Amazing would come out with 2 issues a month. Maybe that's what it was. Something like that.
But the problem with like less relevant characters or less popular characters, you can't force something to become relevant. Like sometimes you can get a good writer who reinvents a character and makes them like beloved now, like they really sell this character to people. But then it's like there's a lot of characters, they're just not a good design. I'm not even talking about the way they look, but also like their backstory, everything about them just isn't cohesively good enough to be popular. And some people might like it, but you'll never be able to make them a popular character. And that's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that they do try to make less popular characters more relevant, but nobody likes them. I mean, Captain Marvel is an incredibly unpopular character, and it's like this is our flagship character.
She was more popular when she was like, at best, she was ever a C-string character, but it was she's a D-lister. She was more popular when she was a D-lister than when they tried to make her an A-lister.
Yeah.
And I like it better that way, because I could just like talk to the other few people. Like, you like Carol Danvers? I like Carol Danvers. Past tense me, because I can't say that these days. But it was like, let's talk about it. Let's talk about
as a background character.
Yeah, or even like her books. Like when she never really had a run, but she had a lot of smaller limited series. And it's like, oh, I don't like Civil War, but I love what was going on in the Civil War limited series for Miss Marvel. That's a fun 6-series book. Let's talk about that. Her running around with Wonder Man. And then when you talk to the few people who are actually fans of those characters in the stories that are written well, you can have a fun and engaging conversation. But now all we could talk about is how fucking shitty Carol Danvers is in all the mainstream books that she's shoved into.
Yeah. Man, I remember the heyday of diversity in comics.
Yeah.
When he would go over all of these like Captain Marvel comics where she was like acting like a freaking fascist, like putting people in jail for thought crimes and shit like that. And it's like, what the hell? This is the craziest character I've ever seen.
Especially being like one of the most gaslit characters in comic history. And I mean, like back when she was good, there were times where people were like literally gaslighting her about things, even the X-Men. Right. And it's like, man, she's such a fun and tragic character. Right, because she also has an alcoholism problem, which made her relate to Tony Stark in many ways. Right, like she's a good character. Yeah. She's lost a lot. Like there's reasons why people would like her if they didn't fuck her up, but there's like no, they They can't just let her be in her corner and enjoyed by the people who enjoy her. Like, nah, let's try to make her number one and completely change her.
Do they ever do things like that? Basically, have like characters with foibles anymore, like alcoholism and?
Oh no, because they completely removed that from Carol's background in like, I think it was 2018. They redid her backstory to where she was always Captain Marvel.
Yeah, it's like, you know, it was interesting when characters had like these real life kind of, you know, flaws, like serious flaws, like alcoholism.
Her
trying to
only
think
flaw
of
is her ego.
another one, but
that's it.
Right,
it's not even really used against her.
And like that was actually like one of the evils that they had to overcome, and they didn't always succeed. Whereas now it's just like, oh, white supremacy. Yeah, that's a real thing that we need to deal with. Yeah.
It tastes like bigotry and mustard.
That's right. Oh, damn you, hot dog salesman.
I could go for like a Sabrett hot dog, which is probably what they were eating since they were in Central Park. You ever have a Sabrett hot dog?
No, what? No.
Okay, so Sabretts are a New York City like specific hot dog. You can't get them elsewhere. The only way we get it, we have to go to this place called Central Market, where they're the only place that carries it, imported from the area. You have to get it in a box, right? Like if you were to have your own hot dog stand. But they're called Dirty Water Dogs, right? And you've probably seen the stand for them in movies, like maybe in some of the Marvel ones or whatever that take place in New York. And there'll be a hot dog stand out there on the corner of one of the main streets that people end up walking the sidewalks down. And it'll be a huge hot dog sign with the word Sabrett going in. And they're called Dirty Water Dogs because the water stays warm. It's just hot dog water. And they're just putting fresh hot dogs in the water all day. And they sit there warm until it's right. It sounds grosser than it actually is. They're great, right? Because there's nothing else in the water than hot dog juice, which is going to be in the water anyway, right? And it keeps it warm, and they can constantly get new hot dogs in. And they have all the fixings right there, and they're great. I think they're all beef hot dogs too. I don't remember the history of it, but I think specifically to try to reach the largest group of people you could sell it to, they wanted to make sure it was kosher, because you know about the large Jewish population of New York City. So they're wonderful. They're longer than the bun. They stick out on both sides. All right. So the first thing you bite is meat, and they're a treat to have a Sabrett hot dog.
I've only ever had Nathan's when I was in
Nathan's
New York.
are pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Sabretts, those are the New York classic.
Yeah. Yeah, I see the blue and yellow umbrellas that they have on the stands and everything.
Yeah, you'll see them in the background of movies all the time.
See, my ex-wife was, if you listen to her, it was Nathan's or nothing. So that was the only one that she liked.
So like Nathan's, one of the reasons too, they got into a lot of the stadiums, right? Kind of like how elsewhere you get ballpark hot dogs anywhere else, but they got into like the stadiums in New York. So when the Met Stadium, you'll probably end up with a Nathan's, not a Sabrett. You have to go outside to the guy in the corner if you want to get one of those.
Yeah, when you search for the same thing, when I search for Sabrett hot dog stand, it comes out with the individual, the guy with the stand and the umbrella and everything. If you search the exact same thing, Nathan's hot dog stand, all you come up with are these standing buildings. Yeah. Probably at stadiums or fairs or something like that. That's interesting.
Yeah. And Nathan's are good. The thing about Nathan is they have a broader appeal. Like you could get Nathan's in any store. You go to Walmart and they have Nathan's hot dogs.
You can get them here in Arizona.
Yeah. They're a good substitute if you can't eat Sabretts. But Sabrett is just better. It is just a much better hot dog.
I don't think I've ever tried it. So
well, it's harder too. Like when you bite into it. It is like an older style of hot dog. It's closer to like when they were more like sausages, because a hot dog's a type of sausage. Yeah. You've got that nice crisp crunch when you bite into a Sabrett hot dog.
Yeah, so Nathan's has that too.
Yeah, it does. But like,
I guess
it's
I think
night and day. It's like it's hard to explain, but when you eat a Sabrett, it's just like night and day.
Yeah, Nathan's got into the hot dog eating contests. So they would get, publicized Yeah.
But also the big thing about Nathan's, and one of the reasons why they're everywhere, is they're bun-length dogs.
Mm-hmm.
So Brett's aren't. You know, they are sausages first that you put on a bun, so they stick out on both sides.
Yeah. But that's weird. Try to click on an article, it comes up with an error. Anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, now I want a hot dog. I'm gonna go get.
Oh, I do too. I think we have stuff. Actually, we probably. My dad said he was going to go and pick up some hot dogs. We probably have Nathan's because that when we can't go to Central Market, that's what he picks up.
Yeah.
I also like. If I want to eat cheap though, like I will go for the cheapest, lowest hot dog. I call them rations, right? I'll go get Bar S because you get a Bar S hot dog for like 88 cents, and you're like, dude, these aren't great by any means, but I've developed a taste for them, trying to eat cheap. And I could take a Bar S hot dog package, put it in my backpack camping, and just eat it like you would Vienna sausages, right? Not even cooked. That's how much I've developed the taste of like eating poor. I would never choose it over like most other hot dogs, but if we're going to like the lower end, I would choose it over an Oscar Mayer. Because like why would I pay extra for an Oscar Mayer when I could just get like Nathan's right there?
I haven't eaten Oscar Mayer or anything in years. It's such shit. It's awful. It's so
got that brand
mass
recognition.
produced.
That's the only thing it's got.
It's mass produced garbage. It's just like, like I liked it when I was a kid because I didn't know any better. But I think I tried one like recently and I'm like, it tastes like sawdust. It's just gross.
I never really developed the taste for it either. And part of it too is like, because my parents, we're from New Jersey originally, right? So, and right across the river from New York City. So there's a lot of like shared taste in food and stuff. And New Jersey's known for their delis and sandwiches. So if we were to go and get lunch meat, we'd actually go to the counter and have them like shave the lunch meat because we want it to where it's falling apart so we can like sprinkle it on the sandwich and stuff. So we would never ever in our life go to the meat aisle and get like Oscar Mayer ham or bologna or anything like that. It's like, no, I want that bologna there, the one that's nice and red.
Yeah.
Nice German.
I mean, I did growing up because, you know, my parents weren't particularly wealthy and it was just it was the 80s and everyone just kind of got Oscar Mayer bologna and that was what you ate.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say
Oscar Mayer hot dogs.
I probably had it at other people's houses.
Yeah.
But also being me, I was probably complaining that it doesn't taste anywhere near as good as the sandwiches we have at home.
Yeah.
And that would
plus, I mean, I don't even know.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it had anything to do with income or whatever. I think it was just, you know, in the 80s in Birmingham, Alabama, I think that was your only option. I don't think they
might have been.
They didn't even really have, like at the grocery store, now, they have a ridiculous amount of meats, you know, like boar's head is
everything.
Is fantastic. Yeah, you can have it sliced right in front of you. Yeah. They didn't have that in the 80s at the Piggly Wiggly. No, they didn't have that. It was like, if you want deli meat, it's prepackaged Oscar Mayer, you know.
Oh, well, actually,
in the refrigerator.
I'm so upset at Walmart too. And I think maybe it's because too many people lost fingers too many times because they were careless. But because I used to go, our local grocery store was Minyard, right, which is part of like the Carnival food stores or whatever, and they would get it so thin it's literally falling apart. They would shave our meat, right?
I used to do that. Yeah.
They don't. Walmart doesn't do that anymore. They used to for a while, but again, I think too many people were careless because of how Walmart and the way they do their hiring, and they're not always competent people. So there's a minimum setting, and they're not allowed. The machine cannot go beyond that minimum setting, and it's like maybe I have an example of something around here, but it's like this thin. It's not falling apart.
Yeah.
It's not even paper thin.
Not.
It's It's like cardstock.
Yeah, you got to go to Publix. They have the best, at least the ones I've been to.
We don't have a Publix.
Oh, you don't have Publix?
Yeah. I know we actually do have like delicatessens in certain places and actual like butcher shops. If we went out of our way and went there, I think Central Market actually too. Central Market I think is actually just like our Publix. right? Because there's also how we get stuff from like everywhere else. That's how we get our soubrettes. They will actually still shave the meat when we have time to go to Central Market. They're good.
I'd have to go. Like I usually go to Fry's, which is a subsidiary of Kroger.
Yeah.
I think they probably have the same policy as Walmart as far as like they'll only
because Kroger used to do it too.
Slice it. Yeah, but we also have Whole Foods, so I bet they would do it there.
We have Whole Foods. I don't. This stuff's good. It's overpriced, even for what you get.
Yeah.
You know, and I just feel dirty walking into a Whole Foods.
Yeah. Yeah, the first time I ever went in to a Whole Foods, I actually did feel uncomfortable. I was like, I feel like I shouldn't be here. It was
I feel
weird.
like I'm underdressed.
But, you get over it.
Whole Foods.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, am I high class enough to be here?
Let me
Weird.
go home and put a polo on first.
Yeah. Bring a tennis racket. But no, I still go. So I only go to Whole Foods for like, if I, for like fish or basically anything like fresh meat. Like honestly, I go to Fry's for like steaks and stuff like that. But if I really want something good, like if I'm going to have company over and I want really good steaks, I'll go to Whole Foods, but it is really expensive. So I don't go, I go like steaks, twice a year.
I actually go to Kroger if I want steaks. But that's also because I live in Texas and Kroger tries to source as close as possible. So you don't have like ranches in your area. Most of the stuff at Kroger is like, oh, look, there's Nolan Ryan's ranch, or like there's some locally sourced stuff. Oh, this one actually came from town. Kroger's good if you live in an area that actually has cows.
Yeah, ours, well, they're Fry's, but I usually get steaks and hamburger meat like every week or every other week whenever I go, but they're not good. They're just like, they're good enough, but I wouldn't call them good, unfortunately.
And the best part, if you do live in an area that has cows and you get stuff that's sourced as close as possible, it's cheap too. Like I pay nothing for steaks by comparison to like other states.
I probably pay more for worse steaks.
People are like, Hasman, how did he get these $2 steaks? I'm like, well, he lives in Texas.
Yeah. Yeah. Plus, he doesn't he get like what are they called?
He gets like
the Flatlands skirt steak, which is like the cheapest kind that you can get.
Oh yeah.
It's basically the stuff that they would normally feed to the pigs.
If you're up in New York and you get a skirt steak, you're still going to pay like $1 or $2 more than what we're paying here.
Yeah. So if it's Jojo asks, why do people like isekai anime and not like Carol Danvers?
One, they're not the same. You might see them as the same, but they're not.
Yeah. I mean, I think the reason people don't like Carol Danvers is because she's not a good, currently written.
Yeah.
She's not a good character.
And while not all isekai is wish fulfillment, the modern trend that you dislike so much is very much supposed to be wish fulfillment, which a lot of people do like wish fulfillment stories. That is a way of storytelling that's popular for a reason throughout history. And Carol Danvers is in no way fulfilling anyone's wish except for the crazy writers that are writing her. Yeah. So that's probably the big thing. Like Konosuba.
That's the problem.
I like Konosuba. I enjoy it. I think it's funny. It's got a good sense of humor. Very Japanese humor for the type, so I can understand why some people don't, but it's a very popular show for a reason. If you don't know Konosuba by name, that's you've probably seen Aqua, the useless goddess, several times. She's from Konosuba.
I think so.
And it is very much a wish fulfillment show. But again, I think it's funny. That's why I like it. I've never seen anything funny in any story that Carol Danvers has been in from like 2011 on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's the main. That's the problem. Even in the Hollywood writers' room, is like they're not writing for their audience; they're writing for themselves. What would I like to see? And it's like, okay, but you are. That wouldn't always be a problem if it weren't for the fact these people are in such a small bubble. They're writing for a very, very small fraction
Yeah.
of the potential audience. It's like nobody likes these stories. Just utter shit. I'm sure the writers like them, and I'm sure their friends at the cocktail parties like them, but nobody else.
Yeah. You know what I miss? Remember back when like writers, because writers tend to be kind of hippie folk in general, right? Like even these ones who they grew up. Actually, I think this is common for some hippies too. But they had very rich parents, and they grew up without a care in the world. But they're still kind of like hippie folk. They're just like rich hippies. You used to hear like, oh yeah, I was inspired by the summer that I went backpacking in Germany or whatever. It's like, well, at least those writers had real world experiences that they could pull from because they went backpacking in Germany. Or like, some things that inspire me is like I'll from stories that I hear from other people. Like my dad spent like a summer year or something following the Grateful Dead around the country, like hitchhiking with his friend. And that's inspired me with some of the ways that I write. Because I'm like, oh, that'd be great for like a buddy road trip story, you know? It's like, at least people used to have experiences. Now, a lot of these writers have never left LA or San Francisco their entire life.
Yeah. And they think they're all worldly and stuff because they're in LA or whatever. But yeah, like I've always heard like when it comes to like game development, for instance, a lot of people, especially a lot of indie creators, are motivated by making a game that they would like to play.
Yes.
And as for a gamer, especially one with eclectic tastes, and they may prefer a certain type, like that works because there's a lot of other gamers that would like to play the kind of games that you like to play. But when that manifests as
comics too, right? This is just how indie works in general. Like people tend to want to make the things they would like to enjoy.
Yeah, but you got to realize, like when that manifests in a depression quest or faith comic or Carol Danvers or something like that.
So I think it's like a different one though, right? Because they don't enjoy these stories either. Right.
Yeah.
No, instead, it's not making something they want to enjoy. It's making something they want you to have to enjoy.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. That's the problem is that a lot of the comic book writers don't actually like comic books.
Yeah.
And if you said, what comic book would you like to read? They wouldn't want to at all. And so they're writing comics that pass along a message.
Right?
Yeah.
Depression Quest was that way, where there was an actual agenda behind Depression Quest, right? And I don't even think developers enjoyed it, right? It was just like, I want you to have to enjoy this because of the agenda.
Yeah. Like I don't think that the actual developer of that game would have enjoyed playing it. Like, that's not the point. You're not supposed to enjoy it.
Because I heard there was actually 2 other people that helped on that game that just don't get credit for it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Not surprised.
I don't know how true that is. I'm just saying that's a rumor I've heard going around.
Yeah, it's a red flag when somebody enters into an industry that they don't actually like.
Yeah.
But they're like super enthusiastic to be in it because they want to change it to something that it never was.
Yeah, Fizz says, in my case, I just write out of extreme spite. So even what you were just saying, this actually, funny enough, the last thing that Stan was talking about when I had to leave the panel, because I mentioned to you beforehand, I didn't mention to anybody that's listening now because it was before we went live. I was watching the Newgrounds Summerfest, and I had to leave hoping that I wasn't going to like the surprise panel, and then they put my buddy on, and like, shit, I have to miss like half your panel. So I was mad. The last thing he was talking about was this, and about how like the 2 things that a lot of independent and even good creators tend to do is they either do stuff out of spite or out of passion, or both, because a lot of times passion is driven by spite. But when he's talking about spite and like how I do it out of spite is almost kind of like, you're doing it wrong, I could do it better kind of spite, right? Not like I fucking hate this thing, but it's kind of like, oh, I'm not happy with what Square's doing, so I want to make a game. Or we could take Eric, I think it's pronounced Baronet or whatever, Concerned Ape, for example, right? I'm not happy
Yeah.
with what the Harvest Moon team is doing. I'm gonna go make my own Harvest Moon. That is technically a form of spite. It's spite and passion working together. He has a passion for a thing. He doesn't like it. Out of spite, he's gonna go make a better one. I think that's fine. That's actually a great way to be like, I can do it better. I think that's a wonderful way to drive things. Your spite needs to be aimed properly, like, if you're going to be driven that way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's when I've heard people say, well, I got into making games because I wanted to make the kind of game that I want to play. It's usually assumed that you mean old and yeah.
I lost you
So
for
I
like
wanna-
2 seconds.
Sorry.
You just froze up on the screen.
Oh, weird. Yeah, I was saying that you're making a game because the game that you used to like has changed. The new version is not as good or whatever.
Yeah.
So you're like, well, I'm going to make games the way I like to play them, the way this one used to be, or this one I wish it
a
way
way
it
that
was.
could make that game better, and you're like, okay, I've got an idea.
Yeah.
Let's head to it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So that's good. Yeah, spite can be a powerful motivator.
It can, as long as it is channeled in the right directions.
Yeah.
Not just to, but also from. Because I think hatred is probably a very bad motivator in general, you know? Because I think a lot of the good spite is actually out of passion or love, and that's a better motivator, you know?
Yeah, because you like love an IP or something and you hate the way that they have ruined it.
Yeah. Because I think even like a lot of comics in our general circles and stuff come from that too. It's like there was a comic they loved, and they're like, God, you fucked it up. So they go make their own original character who's basically the same thing, and they make a better story out of spite. Yeah.
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 Yep.
Well, we're at the end. I had like, let's see, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tabs open, but none of them particularly were things that I wanted to talk about. They were just things we could have. So I don't even mind where the conversation went. It was I pulled up filler stories and we filled it anyway.
Seems like been a slow news week a bit.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think one of the other things
next.
what do you got?
I was gonna say next week I'm going to be at Tucson Comic-Con.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know. We'll have to play it by ear and see where I'm at, when the time comes. But I don't know what's going to be happening next Saturday.
Either cancel, or if I have to get someone like Buck or whatever on, I'll see. Maybe I could just have nobody else come on and schedule like a special guest or something if that's the case. But the sooner we know, the better. Like if it's by at least Friday, I could probably schedule somebody on.
Yeah, I'll start looking at the schedule. I imagine it'll be 4 o'clock, so I'll probably still be like at the con. But if you are on with someone else or whatever, I can always call in on my phone and take y'all around the floor or whatever.
Nobody wants my murder fantasy stories. I wouldn't say nobody wants your murder fantasy stories. I'm sure there probably is a crowd for that somewhere. I just don't know where it is.
Depends on who you're murdering, I guess.
Yeah, and also, I can't even promise how big that crowd is either. It could be very, very tiny. Yeah. But yeah. After this, if you haven't been checking out, let's see if I get the link for it. Maybe I'll drop it in the chat. Go to the Newgrounds Summerfest. Up until the Not Safe for Work panel later tonight. It's going to be on YouTube, so you can catch the panels. You can also go back and watch the ones you missed. There have been some great ones. Actually, of the 2 panels I didn't really care for recently, one of them was a Not Safe for Work panel. The guys were cool. I didn't care for the comedy routine that they were putting on. It just didn't do anything for me. Where's our Discord? So you're not missing any. You can actually watch all of yesterday's stream, and there's not going to be like a downbeat or anything.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Okay.
It actually has been our info box all day, was watch the Newground Summerfest instead. Not that I actually did want you to leave, but I need to remind myself the entire time I'm looking at the screen. And aside from that, we've got, well, I guess those can wait for Tuesday, but we movie night. It's going to be Good Burger, since Good Burger 2 is going to actually finally come out. A lot of people haven't seen it. We're going to watch Good Burger together. And I will probably do more streaming on this channel, but obviously not until the Summerfest is over. For sure.
Okay.
Anyway, that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. If you really enjoy it, please share it. Share it out. Get more people in here. We'll have a good time. More people in the chat. We'll talk about what you want to talk about. I'll throw half of my stories away every episode if you guys have something more interesting to talk about. If it's not interesting, we'll try not to ignore you, but we're just not going to spend any time on it. And if you really, really enjoy the show, want to go above and beyond, plus ultra, you can give a donation to streamlabs.com/vomitoriumlive. Really helps us out. I want to get Kafka. And we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Bye-bye.